Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of council. It being December 18th at 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We have the land acknowledgement in our agenda. And council, is there any concerns or conflicts regarding the agenda? Not. I'll entertain a motion to adopt as presented, seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, without further ado, we'll go to item 5.1, which is the DVP for 4686 Sunshine Coast Highway. And I guess, is it Mr. Hall? You're gonna give us a introduction? Please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we have a development variance permit application here for Council to make a decision on. It was previously seen by Council a few months ago, and now it's back for a decision. So the application was originally for a 0.4 meter height increase. So that option is outlined as option one. Staff have outlined a second option that provides basically a sort of a middle of the road option where council could consider a lesser variance of 0.2 meters, which would allow the possibility that the applicant could still keep habitable space on that third story while ultimately still having to reduce the height of the building overall. And then third option being denial of the variance, in which case they would have to cut down the third story to comply with the total 8.5 meter height. And that would render the third story unable to meet the minimum ceiling height required for habitable space. So it would be turned into basically attic space. So all the bedrooms, bathrooms, et cetera, would have to be removed from that third story. With the second option, the 20 centimeter variance, there's still work that the applicant would need to do to verify that they can meet the ceiling height, but there's a good possibility that they would be able to keep most of that space still as habitable. So staff view that as a compromise that allows a slight increase over height while still having the applicant to reduce the height of the building over their original. So I would turn it back to council for any questions.
Okay, very good. And I'll start off perhaps just by clarifying. So staff's recommendation is option one based on proving out the option two. I wasn't clear the phrasing.
Yeah, staff's recommendation is option two. So that the council would kind of conditionally approve the potential for a 20 centimeter variance based on the applicant going out and proving out that they can meet providing the updated floor plans. So then the permit would be updated to reflect a 0.2 meter increase.
Okay, that's why I raised it, because the DVP in our agenda is essentially option one, I believe. Okay, please, Councillor Shepherd.
Through the chair, could I ask planning, the recommended compromise in the situation would still result in the property owner having to rebuild the existing roof as it's built today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Council, we've had a lot of correspondence, and I note the applicant and the professionals are with us tonight. I did tell them that if we had questions, I would consider allowing them to answer questions. So, Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thanks. Our professional staff is here every night, Your Worship. So I just wanted to ask a question. The compromise that was proposed has that been a compromise that has been proposed to the affected residents nearby in the community association? The reason I'm asking is previous to this, we have gone to the community association and or the residents to ask them if the original overheight was acceptable, and we went down this road that I'm very uncomfortable with of negotiating forgiveness, but nevertheless, I'm wondering if this compromise has then went back to the community association because it was a staff idea and it was part of the process to the community association and the affected residents to determine whether they're comfortable with the compromise. I would also ask if it's possible, if staff is able to in any way show me graphically or anywhere what the difference in the two heights is. Like, is it, it says centimeters and things like that, but is it, what is the original height, over height this much, and then the change, what they're compromised at, is it this much? Like, what's the difference? So there's my first question and just my second question. Thank you.
Okay, so the second question is 40 centimeters, I believe.
Yeah, the original asked, like the building is currently 40 centimeters over height. So the zoning bylaw has a maximum height of 8.5 meters. And the variance would allow it to go up to 8.9 meters. The option two that we're suggesting is a 20 centimeter variance. So going from 8.5 to 8.7 meters. Yes.
So this is about 40 centimeters.
Yeah, then to the first question, no, staff did not refer the proposed 20 centimeter variance option to the community association or the neighborhood.
Was the first question.
Yeah.
So you have not? No.
No.
But we did get a letter from the association dated 4 days ago.
Is there, there appears to be, based on the association's comments, based on consultation with residents, no support for the overheight.
Okay, Council, I'd welcome if you haven't had a chance to see the letter.
I did look. I mean, I can reference documents here. I'm just referencing the presentation in front of us.
Because I don't think there's
yeah.
a member of the executive of the community association with us, but
Yeah.
I don't read this letter as saying they're opposed to this specific thing. They do express concerns about precedent and so on, but you know, we will continue to speak with and work alongside our residents no matter the outcome, and appreciate their willingness to have open and constructive conversations. So I think there's two. I certainly we've all read the input from the adjacent neighbors and the nearby neighbors that are concerned with the impact of this large building being right beside them. And I have sympathy with that, but unfortunately, I guess from their point of view, the bulk of the building is the issue for the adjacent neighbors. That's what I'd suggest, rather than the 40 centimeter or whatever it is additional height. Anyways, yep. Go ahead, Councillor Shepherd.
You know, for my own part, this is such a completely frustrating matter. Because I think it was in September, was it September 29th? This came before council. Council made a decision, have the two parties speak to each other, settle the matter. Seemed to be great for the property owner. They leave the building as it is and just make a contribution to the community, local community center. So doesn't seem to be any follow-up from the property owner. I'm as frustrated with the Davis Bay Community Association. There is a huge advantage to them in terms of a financial contribution. No one seemed to have followed up with the property owner. So I appreciate staff coming forward with another compromise. I'm curious what the property owner thinks about that, but I think there's a real opportunity that's being wasted here. And you know, finally, to all the parties here, council, and I'm a new councillor, maybe I'm finding this out, is supposed to be setting policy direction for things, not interpreting building drawings being sent in terms of a clash between our staff and a property owner. So I'm frustrated that this issue is continuing to today. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. Understood. Counselor Inkster.
Thank you. So I found the letter that was written, and it says at the top, opposition to development's variant permit. However, we register our dissent to the approval as variance. And then they say yeah, I'm speaking to council. I'm just trying to let council know what I've read. And then it says, should council move forward with approving this variance, we request that our dissent be officially recorded. It's right there. I don't know what letter you had, but.
Well, right above
Yeah.
that, if you read the letter, I think anyways, we're interpreting
Yeah.
what the letter says. I think I would join with Counselor Shepherd in frustration that it's before us. Did you have something, Counselor McLaughlin?
Yeah, I'm just listening to this conversation to see where it goes, but I have sympathy for the community because when I saw this building go up, I did not feel it was in character with the community. But I do realize that because of its location, it does have to be raised, 6 feet or whatever. So it's built on this plinth of soil, which makes it high. And then it is maxing out the absolute potential of the lot, which, sometimes people do. And it's probably not an architectural style that is that common in Davis Bay, but is becoming more common taste-wise, I guess, for some people. So looking at the floor plans, though, I think it is a bit of an issue that if they did take off that whole top floor, that they wouldn't have much of a viable house with bedrooms left. And I thought, well, if they're just packing in a lot of bedrooms and bathrooms and they still would have a viable house if they took off that floor, I could consider that. But because it shouldn't have happened, this shouldn't have happened. But I don't think the community has seen the proposal here to have the roof taken off and the ceilings taken down and a compromise on the design of the house. And so I am open to that because I think, it's an unfortunate situation, but I think going forward, we're going to see more houses that are maxing out their lots with all of the types of units we want to have built to allow for more residents in units on lots. And yeah, that's bulky looking. And also the whole question about building that close to the ocean. Yeah, we may change our policy on that eventually, but right now you can build there and you can raise the flood level. And in a way, it is an investment in the community to rebuild where there are old homes. So I'm really torn on this. I wish there could have been some kind of reaching out by the owner or the builder to discuss things with the community association. But I think there was just a void there where there was no real connection. Maybe we could have helped more with that in retrospect, learned a little bit about how to resolve these complex issues. But maybe there is some amends that can be made other than that, but I think this is a slight amendment to the issue that is very complicated and we have to find a way around it at this point.
Okay.
So I
you.
do basically support the recommendation for option 2.
Thank you. Counselor Toff?
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate Councillor McLaughlin's comments because I've been struggling with it too. It's my motion to have them reach out to the community association that I put forward in the first place, because I don't think anybody that builds outside the envelope of what's permitted should just get a buy, get a pass. But I think the amount of wastage that comes from bringing a building down in height 16 inches doesn't do anybody or landfill or anything any favors. And so that's sort of why I was trying to hope that we could come up with a contribution to the community association that would mitigate. I do appreciate staff's presentation of the middle road here with the 0.2 meter variance, 8 inches. It's the width of a sheet of paper. I'm leaning towards that option right now. but I'm not sure that I'm in support of a full denial. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Counselor Rose, turn.
Yeah, I appreciate the amount of work that's gone into this, the amount of staff time. To Counselor Shepherd, you know, we are here to make policy. There is a policy around this. I feel that staff have done their due diligence, and I'm actually not in support of a compromise, which is outside my usual personality, but I'm really frustrated by this, and so long as I'm confident that staff have done their due diligence, I can't support this motion. That's where I stand. Thanks.
May I clarify, you can't support the recommendation?
I support recommendation 3, not 2.
3, okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, anything else? I know that the applicant has expressed, and there's some technical discussions that I don't think council were qualified to adjudicate on. Is it in fact higher or not higher or whatever? I did have one question, the 2-meter floodplain lift, is that in legislation? Or is that an engineered analysis based on surges and tides and stuff?
It's in the zoning bylaw. It's a regulation in the zoning bylaw.
But does that applies in Davis Bay?
Yeah, it's a general 2 meters above the natural boundary of the sea. So it applies anywhere where the,
Yeah, I guess my question, because I've had 2 different things over the weekend when I raised this with friends. 2 meters? That's crazy. Why so much? And then, of course, an hour later, that's not enough for sea level rise in the future. So it's a judgment that at some point we've made and
Yeah.
we put it into bylaw. Okay, thank you. Please, Councillor Shepherd.
Yeah, I'm leaning against supporting the recommendation only because I really think that there's a compromise here. Leave the existing building, as Councillor Toth mentioned. It's just a waste to tear off a roof to reduce it that much. And as per our original September resolution, let the parties negotiate the contribution. It's the quickest way to settle this. You know, I'm not faulting anyone here. I think it's by accident that the house has ended up slightly over the approved limit. It's no one's fault. I'm not trying to demonize any party here. Everyone's working in good faith. So I think that's still the best settlement. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't think 2 is valuable to anybody. We'd be spending energy, resources, money to take, you know, that much off the house. And I think we're better served by following something where everybody can figure it out. I don't think the height, by the way, is the issue for the immediate neighbors. I respect very much and understand their frustration about that big house right beside them. But the fact that it's right beside them, the height doesn't impact them the same way that it may for people a block or 2 away. So I'm actually in support, I suppose, of where you're going, Councillor Shepherd, that we would agree with the DVP as presented in the in our package, which is about to allow the 0.4 and with landscaping and perhaps with some additional encouragement to the homeowner and the community association to work things out.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I guess I'm almost ready to make another motion that we, instead of the recommendation presented on page 4, council reaffirm its decision from September, was it in September on this matter? And again, let the parties reach a contribution, an agreeable contribution from the property owner to the community association, and leave the building as is.
Okay. So that's a motion?
Crudely put, yes.
Yes, yes. Okay. Help? All right, but you'll crudely second it? Okay, so do you want to paraphrase Counselor Toff or Counselor Shepherd? What you're seconding, just put a different words so our corporate officer can pick it up.
I think Counselor Shepherd pledged it
Okay.
pretty good there in that council defer this decision pending discussions between the applicant and the Davis Bay Wilson Creek Selma Park Community Association for like literally copy paste the original motion from September, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
Good,
please.
yeah, through the chair.
So that's first moved and seconded, so.
Right, to talk on that second motion there. I'm not sure that they haven't seriously considered it. I think they have. And they don't like the idea of the building staying as it is, because I think it's quite clear in the correspondence that they feel that it is an affront to their community, the style of their community, and that, yes, okay, there's going to be larger buildings and height raising for flooding and that, but to go over that limit is just, there's no, how much money would that be that could be put towards something? I don't think there's enough money that would satisfy that community, because it is a real, almost like a personal issue. It's an issue about their community. They've taken a stand, I think, already. So I think to send this back to them and make them and go through this again, I don't think you'd get any different result. So that's why I think at least a compromise with the reduction in height. It's a lot of work, you're right, but it's going to allow everybody to move forward and stop with, I think, the tension that has been created with this in the community, which is, there's no, what value do we put on that? I'd like to see an end to that. Thank you.
Counselor Inkster, please.
Yeah, thanks. I believe this has gone to the association. They've written us a letter in reference to the proposal and discussion, and they're not in support. I think that bringing it back to them for further discussion, when they knew what the previous discussion was about, would be potentially a little bit insulting. The other piece that concerns me is this would take, based on the time this has taken already, this would take, and we have Christmas coming and those holidays attached, we would have a number of more months where the building has to sit idle with no changes in order for that discussion, those discussions to occur, a decision that's acceptable to both parties to have to occur, and then that decision clearly laid out to council from our staff and or the association, because we like to hear from them in this case, to come back clearly to council so we can make a decision to approve or not approve an overheight building. So I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Toff.
Thank you. I seconded it to put it on the floor, but I won't be supporting it either. The letter from the association, I struggle with it because it is just vague enough that we don't know whether they actually considered the motion we made or not. If we had that answer, I think it'd be really easy for us to move forward with a different option. So yeah, I think the time for trying to work it out between the neighborhood and the homeowner has passed. And I think that's why it's back to us. It's because we have to make a decision on it.
Okay. So we have a motion in front of us. For a very different reason, I guess I'm not going to support it, because I think that we're talking about, to me, it's punishing. The idea that we would take 8 inches off of the building is not really a compromise that works for anybody. It's still over height based on the measurements we've done. And it's causing a lot of costs, and like I said, we're energy and use of materials and so on. I would prefer to see us, frankly, accept this, but figure out how to make it absolutely 100% clear this is not a precedent. because there certainly seems to be some disagreement on the technical aspects, so I will accept that it's in dispute perhaps, but for this, in this case, I think we're better to accept option one and make sure that the community understands this is a one-off. And perhaps not as part of the motion, but rely on the goodwill of the owner and the community association to still achieve what you were driving at with the motion, to come back, just to get together and talk about it after the fact. So it's not a legal or an obligation. So that's an add-on, but my main thing is, I think we're better to, for all sorts of reasons, to approve option one and make sure it's not a precedent.
Yeah, thanks. Just clarification, what you said punishing, did you mean to the proponent or the neighborhood?
I meant to, in this case, I think it's punishing everybody to delay and to put it back, for example, to the community association to somehow come up with an agreement. So sure, any costs incurred to drop it by 4 or 8 inches is punishing on the owner for sure. But I'm being broader than that in my description of punishing. We're going to call the motion, call the question. No, yep.
I'll just add one more piece to try and sway people to my argument. If I amended my crude motion to set a date limit of 30 days for the parties to agree on a contribution, perhaps that backstops it and draws a limit to, and then the parties have a clear timeline. I mean, not much else is going to get done within 30 days, so.
I know.
Would the seconder agree to that?
To put it on the floor.
You know, I don't know that it's gonna change anything. That's the problem. You know, we've already taken a half hour tonight on this. We took a half hour, 40 minutes last time around on it. We've had 2 staff reports written about it. We've had time from the applicant, the applicant's agents, their structural people. The community or the community members have written into us. I don't know that 30 days is gonna do anything. I'm voting against it anyways, so I guess I will support your amendment, but I'm still gonna vote against your motion.
We'll call the question on as amended. Okay, all right, so everybody clear what we're voting on? Corporate officer, are you able to give us
Yes, I would ask for some clarification, though, whether it was simply a reiteration of the motion that was passed in September, or if there was any other approvals included with that.
No, I think it was defer a decision to give further time to the owner and the community association.
So the motion then was that the property owner or their agent negotiate an amenity to support the Davis Bay, Wilson Creek, and Selma Park Community Association that is approximately equal to the cost to modify the structure in order to comply with the zoning bylaw 580.
Okay, so that's the motion we're voting on, and yes, please.
Yeah, I would be interested to know what that dollar value would be. I don't have any idea. And so neither does the community association. I don't think it's going to be all resolved in 30 days to figure that out.
No, the 30 days isn't part of this
Well,
motion,
okay,
so.
or ever.
Yeah, well, that's a fair comment. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is defeated. Okay, council is, Councillor Toth.
Thank you. Somewhat hesitantly, I'm gonna move the recommendation on page 4 from staff, which is option 2.
Okay, is there a seconder? Thank you. So discussion? Counselor Inkster.
I previously pointed out why this is difficult for me because I have not seen nearby resident and or community support in that area for this proposal. And I would predict that they would have difficulty with the staff motion based on the earlier concerns over allowing a building over height. There's that piece. My concern going forward is if I was a property owner or a future property owner, do you know how tall I'd build my new house? I
Okay,
would
well-
use the argument that it's been allowed and precedent has been set when I'm building it that tall. That's my concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Toth.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the precedent too, which is why I'm not really in favor of full 16-inch variance. But I think this does send a message that this is a bit of a compromise, because if we were sanitizing that entire upper floor, I think the property owner would have been better suited to build a 2-story house in the first place. So if we approve a 40 centimeter, 16-inch variance, we're sending a message that absolutely come ask forgiveness later. If we deny the application, so they have to take that 40 centimeters off, they'll have probably one of the largest attic spaces in Sechelt. And the neighborhood still has to deal with a building that is massive in volume, pretty much right to the limit in all 3 dimensions. And so I think, you know, doing the 20 centimeter, the 8-inch variance does allow that to still be useful space. It does say, like, if you exceed your measurements, we do have the authority to take the roof off your house. And I think that sends a pretty strong signal to people that are looking at building close to the limit in the future.
Counselor Inkster.
One of my other sort of conundrums is what message are we sending to the building industry in Sechelt? I'm not sure who built this house, but I know that the houses that are nearby met the height limits because they understood them. And there's been a number of houses built in that area recently. If anybody has been down there over the last few years, we all have, obviously. And they're building to the height that's acceptable in Sechelt because I think the local companies know the rules and they know why there's those rules. So it's also, once again, it's confusing to me why we'd accept one and make others follow the rules of height restriction in a beautiful area such as that part of Davis Bay. Thank you.
Okay, Director Allen, thank you.
If I may, just to speak to the possibility of precedent and or message to the community, a development variance permit is always an option to find a way out of trouble, right? So the precedent is you don't meet the bylaw, you have to come to council. It doesn't compel staff to support, it doesn't compel council to support. The precedent only is you have the legal ability to apply. So in this case, you have building permit submissions dating back to 2023 that potentially show 2 measurements, one that meets the zoning, one that does not. We annotate the plan saying you must use the flood construction level, right? But it leaves this possibility of there's still 2 drawings on the plan. So in this case, in terms of the message, what we were trying to establish is we'll do what we can to help you. We're going to issue your building permit, but you must use the flood construction level. So there's been a variety of drawings. The drawings attached on the report are the design drawings as they stand now. The drawings attached in the building permit submission are annotated in red saying must meet flood construction level. So the measurements here are from the top of the slab, not from the base. So there is some interpretation of who's right and why it's done. So this leads, so my point is it's challenging, it's difficult. We could have denied the plans. We could have said, come back when you've redesigned. We recognize 8.5 meters difficult to build 3 stories. This is a 3-story house, so it's going to be difficult from the very beginning. So in terms of precedent and how we manage this in the future, we don't annotate plans. We say, no, come back when you fix this. We put a stop work order on sooner and say, we'd like a survey before you start framing and figure out some volumetric calculations. And/or we have a pre-construction on-site meeting like we might with Community Services or Green Court or TELUS, the larger projects. But it's all a demand on our service levels. We've also seen where we've had complaints where we haven't issued permits when the applicant is ready to receive their permit. So it's challenging for us whether or not we provide expedient service or more of a critical eye. And so that's where we are. We've looked at a number of versions of these plans to try every way we can to make it work, but fundamentally 8.5 meters is the height from the flood construction level. So I guess what I'm trying to say, this one's particularly challenging. It's not as simple as brazenly going over height. There's some interpretation and we're trying to find a way to provide it. So our initial recommendation in September was for approval. It was the problem-solving solution. We recognize, we hear and read the letters from the community and understand. And so we were trying to find a way to make it work this time. I recognize that this middle option is still a lot of pain to remove that roof and for what good ultimately. Trying to find something somewhere in the middle that could possibly work. And that's the rationale for behind this, right? But there can also be a rationale for all 3 of the options. And so I'm not sure how to sum this up, recognizing the challenge that you do have. And it's been extremely challenging for us. And lack of traction since September in the original resolution has led us here because we as staff don't know what further we can offer until we receive direction from council. So I know the other motion has passed, but the one thing we're really briefly discussing is whether or not it would possibly benefit from being a tri-party meeting and members of council and/or staff were able to assist in explaining some of the uncertainties that are hard for both parties to understand and to communicate to one another.
So tripart, you're talking about the district
Members of council attending
with
a meeting.
the applicant
Right,
and
with
the
staff
community
advising.
association.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that motion has passed, but I felt at the time it might be a solution that could help with traction. And I think we struggled in the past 3 months of not knowing what to do and what to say and how to assist either side in this regard.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, is it fair to say that there's been some learning for us on this project? Well, yes, other homes have been built, but they haven't been built to the same degree. Okay. Council? A motion for option 2. I won't be supporting it because I do like what Director Allen said, and for the other reasons that I've said, I think for 8 inches, it doesn't improve anything. We would need to find a way to deal with the precedents, which Director Allen has given us one point that it's up to us on a case-by-case basis. So I would continue to support option 1 with potentially something that along the lines of you've just offered, some sort of a coordinated meeting of the parties. Okay. Any other thoughts? We've got a motion in front of us as presented on page 4 of our agenda. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay. How, I am aware we have 6 councillors, so I've been aware of the tie vote, but council, how do you wish to proceed? I'll put it on the table. I would move that we adopt option 1 and direct, I guess, direct staff. Now it's my turn to crudely come up with something. Direct staff to, no, let's just leave it. I recommend I propose option 1 with the landscape plan to be as approved. Is there a seconder? You? Okay, I mean, it's on. Okay. Discussion, please.
I'm not going to support option one because I think as Councillor Inkster has mentioned, in my view, this is just rewarding the builder having built in excess, but by accident of what's allowed. And we have real pressure from the residents saying, hold to the bylaw. You know, there's a reason for the laws being in place. So, no, I don't think that's appropriate. I would actually rather, as the Director of Planning suggested, that some members of council who want to, we attend to sit down with the planning department and the property owner and try and resolve something. Thanks.
I agree with that. I was struggling because we already voted against doing that. So I'm not sure how, I suppose we could revisit it. Well, we could defer a decision. Please.
I was just going to point out that what we voted down was a repeat of the resolution
Mhm.
from past meeting and
Mhm.
didn't involving council
Mhm.
or staff. So,
Okay,
um,
all right. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Just of expediency, I'd withdraw it with your support. Would you like to make a motion or one of you on?
do we have a motion on the
No,
floor?
we've withdrawn it.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion, in line with Councillor Shepherd's thinking that we give this one more kick at the can and involve, council and staff with the applicant and representation from the community association to see if we can come to a agreeable solution with regards to some
Okay.
sort of contribution.
Do you want to put a time limit on that or
uh,
it's up to you.
By the end of January.
Is there a seconder? Oh, okay. Wanna, please?
Thanks. Just a process question. Isn't this almost a carbon copy of a previous motion that we?
Well,
Three
as
motions ago?
Councillor Rowe said, it's
Yeah.
different because this involves council and staff being involved in this discussion. Where in September, we said, you guys go and see what you can do with it. So we're offering to be, I don't know, supportive, moderator. Yeah, that's the better word. Okay. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think we can, certainly, I'll talk with council and see who wants to be part of this, and then we can coordinate with staff. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Okay. Council, so that brings us then to item 6.1. And this is the agritourism on Tyson Road. Mr. Hall, I assume?
Yes. So yeah, we held a public hearing and now the zoning amendment bylaw is presented for third reading. We have proposed 4 options in the report, although 2 are basically just different forms of denial, kind of outlining a rationale for denial. But we have the original proposal of increasing the number of agritourism accommodation units up to 10, which is in line with the default that the province allows. We have included an option to amend the bylaw. Actually, the bylaw is proposed to be amended to allow up to 5 units, which would involve the 3 geodesic domes and 2 A-frame cabins. and remove the potential for the 5 additional tent or RV sites as a middle of the road option, given some of the comments from the public in terms of the concern over the number of units. So staff are trying to provide an additional option for council to consider in terms of the original proposal of 10 units, the recommended option of 5 units, which does allow an increase for the applicant over what they currently have, while still addressing the concerns from the public over the overall increase. And that's basically in the recommendation, along with some other items related to zoning compliance. And then attached to the report, there's also the site plans kind of that the applicants have prepared, showing both the 10-unit and 5-unit options and the calculated site area. So you can see that even with the 10-unit option, they're still under the 5% parcel area issue. And then part of the recommendation is proposed, even though staff would have done it anyways, just to endorse the survey requirement at the business license application stage to ensure that regardless of the number of units, they're complying with the 5% parcel requirement.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Top?
Thank you. So just from a clarification perspective, option 1 is to sort of move forward with the recommendations that are here as they're presented. Options 3 and 4, deny, move on. Option 2, I'm assuming this would basically be refer it back to staff to modify the proposal for these 5 units. We're not going to try and rework this bylaw on the fly. So if we go with option 2, it will be going back to staff because we're not going to give it readings tonight. Personally, I lean towards option 2, maybe. I'm not sure that 10 is the right number for this site, but in my head, I thought 3 geodesic domes and 2 RV/tenting sites, but I'm interested to hear what the rest of council thinks.
Okay, just before that, we'll go to Mr. Hall.
Yeah, just to clarify, we did amend the bylaw to address the 5-unit proposal. So what's before you, the bylaw has been amended to include just the 5 units. So council could give a 3rd reading based on the 5-unit proposal.
Right, okay, we could, yes. But staff's recommendation is to give 3rd reading to the bylaws as in our package.
Yeah, which has been amended to reflect only 5 units.
Right. That's what I'm saying is, so it's as presented in the package. Okay, Councillor McLaughlin, thanks.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I'd just like to ask staff, did they consider the recommendation from the One Straw Society where they stated that really a maximum of 2 of these agritourism units would be what they propose?
Yes.
Yeah, as we discussed in the report, that's one of the rationales for lowering the number. We didn't obviously go as far down as 2, but recognizing that between the Farmers Institute, the One Straw Society, and the community, there was certainly support for a lesser number. So staff are trying to, again, provide a compromise to meet some of the intent of those interests at the same time as trying to meet the interests of the applicants and having an increase in the number of units. So that's where we settled on 5 as reducing the overall impact while still providing the applicants some expansion options.
So this is there's no technical factoring, it's just half of 10
Yeah.
as opposed to fitting.
I mean, it works that part of their proposal is, the 5 structures, the 3 domes and the 2 A-frame cabins as kind of more formal structures, and then removing the tent and RV sites from the
Right.
proposal.
I mean, that's the difference, isn't it? That we're just removing the RV
Yeah.
tent sites.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, with all due respect to staff, I mean, I think we've all learned a lot about agritourism. I didn't know anything about farming until I started traipsing around some of these properties. And I still believe that we should go on the advice of our local agricultural association group They know a lot more about these things, and I don't really agree with spot zoning in this case because it does set a precedent, which is concerning to me and also to the, I think to the residents that are surrounding this property. So, you know, I think council should consider really just going with 2. If we find we want to extend later more, I mean, it's a good thing, that's one thing. But if we authorize 5 now, it's hard to go back and say, oh, no, we actually, that's too much. you know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Inkster.
Yeah, so we've been under the seeming presentation and discussion that 10 was the amount of units. I'm wondering if the proposal meets the needs and or is satisfactory to the proponent. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, ideally, obviously, they would like to have as many as they can, but in terms of their operations, the 5 does still work for them. I mean, their intent with the tent and RV sites wasn't really to operate them regularly or seasonally, it was more to allow for accommodation during events, with the domes and the cabins being the kind of the primary seasonal accommodation. So the 5-unit option as proposed does work for them.
It does.
Yes. Yes.
You've talked to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. I thought I'd picked that up somewhere in the note in the report. Counselor Rowe?
Yeah, I'm happy with the compromise. I think it's the way to go. So I'm going to move the recommendations 1 through 3. on
Thank
page
you.
3. Thanks.
Is there a second or seconded? Okay. Okay. Other questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this, it's a night for compromises, it seems. You know, the 3 geodesic domes and the 2 A-frame cabins is still 5 structures. The RV tenting sites, could be RV tenting sites, they could be a crop field 1 year, they could, it's sort of a flex space, if you will. Whereas, you know, 5 structures are gonna be 5 structures. And really, we were looking at 5 structures under the original proposal as well. So I'm really leaning towards like 3 domes, 2 tenting sites. I don't know how big of an operation we really need here for short-term rentals. The one question I had though, I believe right now they're allowed 4-season operation. I'm seeing a head nod, I'm seeing a head shake. So I want to seek some clarity on whether they're allowed 4-season operation right now. Because part of all of this is when they come into compliance with everything, I think they're limited to 3-season operation at most. So, thank you.
Yep, that's, okay, let's get that clarified, please.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're only allowed to operate 3 out of 4 seasons, and that's something that the ALR regulations talk about in terms of the seasonal operation and not year-round operation.
So we don't need to impose anything if that's our wish.
Well, I mean, we have to adhere to the seasonality piece that's in the provincial regulation, so we
Right.
can't authorize them to operate year-round when the ALR regulations
Right.
only allow them to operate 3 out of 4
So
seasons.
that,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Now,
so
we could choose to limit them further if we wanted to, but
understood,
we're not
yeah.
proposing that.
Okay, please, Counselor Shepherd.
Yeah, I am in support of the recommendations as well. I think it's a great compromise. I thank the planning staff for listening to the public hearing and listening to all of the comments of the people who are objecting to it and adapting the recommendations. I mean, the only thing I sort of tweak I would have liked is, I think the Farm Institute came out with a suggestion that in view that we may have other owners coming forward looking for the same kind of accommodation, that we have a standard. So we're using 5 as a compromise, But I think the Farm Institute had suggested, have a rule, a sort of rule based on the size of the acreage. And I think their suggestion was 2 or 2.5 units per hectare. You know, that's just a good idea. But the recommendations answer a lot of the objections that were raised, so I'm in support of it. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Councillor
Yes, thank you
McLaughlin.
for the chair. Yeah, I just want to make the clarification between tourist accommodation and agritourism. Short-term rentals are not agritourism. I hope you know, it's something I think we all have found out about. And I'm not really sure how they've operated in the past, if it's been short-term rental or agritourism or a combination. But in this case, it has to be really clear that it is just for agritourism. Because, you know, I mean, when I looked on Airbnb, it did seem like it was more like a short-term rental, and that it was seemed year-round. That's just my perception. Thank you.
Okay. And obviously, staff, you're comfortable, and the proponent is comfortable waiting for the business license application, because by right, in theory, they could submit something and it wouldn't comply? Like part 3 of the recommendation, that if the survey, is there a way the survey would come back and we would reject it?
I mean, I suppose if it does come back and shows that they can't meet the 5% thing, then we can't approve the business license.
Right.
But I guess we're confident based on the site plans that they prepared and the calculations that we've done,
Right,
that particularly with 5 units, they
Mhm.
should have more than enough room
yeah,
to make it work.
right, thank you. That makes sense, because you assessed that 10 would probably fit, but obviously that's more complex than 5 units and 5%. Right, thank you. Okay, and given that they've indicated they're okay with that, that's a big part as well. So it's one thing to compromise to accommodate the community, it's another to have the proponent happy. So I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Toth opposed? Anything you want to add? Okay, very good. Thank you. The motion carries. Okay, without further ado, we go to item 6.2. Oh, do I? Suppose. Okay, thank you. So on page 58, we've got the bylaw 580-09-2023, and this is as presented for third reading. Moved Councillor Toth, seconded Councillor Shepherd. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, carried. Thank you. All right.
Hang on a sec, because I'm getting a quizzical look from Councillor Inkster, so I wanted to clarify. I voted against the recommendations because I felt, you know, more appropriate would be 3 and 2, 3 domes, 2 tenting sites. However, I saw that was not the will of council after the vote. So the amicable thing to do is not to dig in, but to go along, since it was going to be clear that I'm not going to get my wishes in this particular proposal. So that's why I moved it.
Okay, now I think we can go to page 60, and this is item 6.2, the bylaw number 580-10-2024, and this is before us for adoption. The report's clear. Councillor Shepherd?
I'll move the recommendation on page 60.
Okay, seconded. Thank you. Discussion? Yes, please.
Thanks, thanks, Chair. We've had this in front of us a couple of times, and there's been some discussion with the proponent on the look of the development and/or pieces, important pieces of the development. I'm going to support it because I like the look of the units, and council's heard me when I don't like the look of buildings and/or units, and I like the look of these. And the reason why I have opinions on how things look is I think Sechelt deserves nice-looking units and nice-looking buildings for our residents to live in, and these
Okay.
will be those.
Thank
So
you.
that's why I support them. I like the park piece that's included, the linear park. That's really important to connect the Norvan area to the beach area safely for the residents to move through. And I like the road improvements at McCourt, because those have been needed for about 30 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Counselor Tough?
Thank you. This is just zoning, so they're gonna have to come back with a development permit application. I think that's where we'll see, whether the colors meet with Councillor Inkster's approval or not. We'll be in the development permit stage. We've told our development community, we want them to do better when it comes to things like gray water reuse, rainwater capture, things like that. This is a developer that is willing to go all in, both with the gray water reuse and also with rainwater cisterns and water distribution on the property. And I think that needs to be recognized and commended. And I support this project because of those sort of initiatives. I know it can be a lot in one area to add 86 units, but I think that the impact on the community will be a lot less because of what they're looking to do. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Counselor McLaughlin?
Thank you through the chair. Just continuing on Councillor Inkster's comments about design. I'm not as enthralled with the design, et cetera, but I do like the idea of it being like a pilot project for us in a way to implement some of these water challenging technologies. So it will be interesting to see. And hopefully it will provide housing for people that want to get out of their larger homes into townhouses and free up some other housing for people and help this community get better. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Anything else, folks? Not, I'll call the question. This is all in favor of adoption, proceeding with adoption. Carried. Without further ado, we'll go to page 62, which is the formal reading of the bylaw, 580-10-2024. Stick around, guys. Councillor Shepherd moved. Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. All right. Very good. Well, so we go to item 6.3. This is the APC bylaw amendment. Council moved.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation on 65.
Great, thank you. Seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. And then we need to do the reading. So this is the bylaw 578-02-2024. This is before us for adoption. Moved, seconded. All in favor? Carried. And we go to the vehicle removal amendment bylaw 279-01-2024. Is that a motion? Thank you. Seconded. See a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. My computer will catch up. So the reading of the bylaw for adoption starts on page 71. Our agenda package, bylaw numbers 279-01-2024, moved Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor Toth. All in favor? Carried. Skipping through it. All right, building bylaw, and this is on page 74. Building bylaw amendment 40912. All right, and seconded. Any discussion? Thank you. By the way, thank you, Council. I wasn't able to be at the meeting, so appreciate you handling everything. Okay, all in favor? Carried. And the formal reading of the bylaw starts on page 76. Bylaw number 409-12-2024. Moved Councillor Toth, seconded Councillor Shepherd. All in favor? Ta-da, carried. All right, 6.6. So council, this is rezoning. Different screen on my computer that is blocking half of the page. Okay, so this is before us for adoption of the bylaw amendment. Councillor Toth, did you?
I actually have a question here based on recommendation 1. Oh, am I on the right page? What page are we on?
We're on page, I hope we're on page 79.
Thank you. Recommendation 1, that the OCP amendment bylaw will not proceed to adoption. Is that the same as OCP amendment bylaw be abandoned? Because the verbiage is interesting to me, so I just look for some clarity there. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the OCP amendment is no longer required to be adopted because of the adoption of the other OCP amendment that makes the density changes the council previously approved. So whether we're talking about not proceeding with adoption or abandonment or rescinding it, like, it's all the same. We don't, council does not need to adopt the amendment bylaw 49233 in order to adopt the zoning amendment bylaw.
okay, Councillor Toth,
Then in that case, I'll move both the recommendations on page 79.
thank you. Seconded. Any discussion? Please.
Comment.
Yes.
Since this is moving along, I am going to support it, but I'm really hoping that it will provide apartments for local workers and residents here that, or maybe trying again, like to downsize, et cetera, and fill that part of the market that I think is quite lacking here. Thank you.
All right, council, we have that motion or dual motion, all in favor? Whoops. Sorry, did you have a comment?
I just one comment. I know I was hoping I wouldn't have much to say this meeting, but I did want to, I was really worried when we didn't hear anything going forward, that this particular developer had walked away from the project for one complication or another. So I'm glad to see this coming forward, through my sort of day job. I interface with a lot of older people, a lot of older single people that are looking for places to downsize. You know, maybe they can't keep up the maintenance of a house anymore, never mind the fact that they're living there alone. And so, like I know somebody who sold her house and she moved into the rental apartments down in Wilson Creek there on the waterfront,
Arbutus.
the Arbutus building, because there was no option here in Seasheld. And until TELUS broke ground on their project, you know, I had another customer that was asking when she could sell her house and move to Seasheld. So we need this, desperately we need this. So I'm glad this developer is still in the picture. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Inkster?
I think Wilson Creek has a lot of good stores down there, and Councillor Toth. Nevertheless, previous to this, I have issues with the access and the building construction access. So I know it's going forward, and so I'll be supporting the need for apartments and or housing in the downtown core, where people can walk to our businesses and spend their money there. But I will voice my concerns over the access road, Shorncliffe, and the fact that we're putting construction vehicles in an area in which the community school and or the French school and or the high school students pass through regularly, in particular at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And so those are my concerns going forward with construction vehicles in the same area with kids. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have the motion on page 79. Items 1 and 2 is presented. All in favor? Carried. And we go to the OCP amendment, the bylaw number 492-33-2023. This is, so we're going to vote to not proceed with it as distinct from abandon it. Counselor Toth moves it. Seconded. Okay, all in favor of not proceeding? There. Carried, yes. Okay, bylaw number 580-06, 2023. This is the second part, so this is before us for adoption. Counselor Toth, thank you. Counselor Shepherd, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Have I missed one? No. Okay, so then we go to item 7.1, minutes. So this is, the first one is the meeting of December 4th, 2024. It's not there, so I will rely on others to make sure they're complete and accurate. No typos. So move, thank you. Second, thanks. All in favor? Carried. Minutes of the December 11th meeting. And moved, thank you. Okay. Yep, it is indeed. Seconded, all in favor? Carried. And then we go to the committee of the whole from December 11th. And anything anybody wants to talk about? You okay with it? Okay, I'll, motion seconded, all in favor? Carried. Then the permissive property tax exemption committee meeting from, oh yes, July 4th. Lion, thank you. Counselor Toth, seconded, all in favor? Terrific, carried. And then community safety, one item is, I'm sure that Lorraine Reed was not present at the meeting because she, I understand, resigned from the committee during the summer. So, okay, so if we could have a motion with that amendment, unless there's other changes in September. I don't remember myself. I think he left after that. But I defer. Okay, as amended, thank you. Second, all in favor? As amended, thank you. All right, the airport committee, this is on page 103. Thank you. And I will certainly second that. All in favor? Carried. So then we go to SCRD report. Yeah, I think we'll make, Councilor Inkster will, you get the first 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. That's, I'll recognize the chair designating me to speak first. Councilor Toth has sent some documents to council, which are very helpful for perusal and or discussion if we had enough time before the meeting, but it's for future if in fact council has questions, obviously. Just wanted to quickly mention, there was a lot of discussion about the regional district, about water rates that have been reported on now, and the headline was a little bit unfortunate because it made it look like we'd had really high rates this time versus the past, but we actually pushed for lower rates for water. And if you compare the other water areas that was mentioned, North and South Pender, we're quite a bit less with our changes this year. So that's good to see, because it also means that the projects that we have been talking about will continue to move forward based on, in one particular project, a different route of piping, which will make the project cheaper. And I wonder if I got another in. don't have much to say. We did talk about, rec facilities going forward and the continuous upgrading and or physical changes with the rec facilities, but that will come in further reports in the future with with some analysis of the rec facilities which are aging. And I'm happy to have that discussion, the regional district table, and bring that information back to this council, because rec facilities like parks are very interesting to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. So tagging on, we had a presentation from staff and BC Transit about future planning for a transit fleet yard and maintenance center, because Mason Road doesn't have the electrical capacity to support battery electric buses, doesn't have the space to support transit growth and expansion over the coming years. The maintenance facility itself is old and tired and needs to be replaced. It is going to be a long-term project, but staff will be bringing forward a 2026 budget proposal for some temporary bus parking to alleviate congestion while they design and figure it out and acquire the land to build a new transit facility, which I circulated the report to council out of the committee of the whole agenda from December 12th, but could be up to a $47 million facility, which would be cost shared with BC Transit, could be eligible for grants. There's grant funding that's expected to come starting in 2026 for transit centers, and would be eligible for financing through a lease fee with BC Transit. So it's not like the regional district would have to borrow the $47 million to build this thing. BC Transit has a fair bit of flexibility to acquire land and build facilities and then basically lease them back at cost, which is a good opportunity. And Langdale Well, Councillor Inkster referred to, there was a CRAVE study, which is the first time I'd heard that acronym, which is a cost risk assessment and value engineering, presented for Langdale Well. So one of the options that was explored and recommended would actually see the water from the Langdale Well diluted with water from Church Road to reduce the iron and manganese content to acceptable levels. Those minerals aren't a health and safety concern. They're just a taste and odor and color type concern. But by blending those two wells together, it can actually save millions of dollars in treatment costs, which would make the Langdale Well Field potentially a $17 million project instead of a $23 million project. And we'll be having more discussion about that in round 2. And then finally, tomorrow morning at the Electoral Area Services meeting, the Ministry of Agriculture is going to be presenting and talking about agricultural planning and pressures on farmland when it comes to development and things like that. So timely given our agenda and some concerns that we've raised in the past. For example, agricultural land in the South Coast is valued at $139,000 an acre. And in Ontario, it's $4,000 to $28,000 an acre. $4 to $28,000 per acre. Yeah. Even on Vancouver Island, it's $63,000 an acre. So there's a huge variety of pricing, and it's almost entirely related to residential pressures and industrial pressures on agricultural land. So I guess the final thing, I gather it's going to be uploaded as a late attachment to the website, but I did circulate the Intergovernmental Water Summit summary report. It's 5 pages. It's an easy read, and it sort of summarizes the 4 intergovernmental water meetings that we've had across the coast here over the last couple of years. So that's really all I have for now. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Who wants to go first in council reports? Sure, Councillor Toth.
I think the only,
Councillor McLaughlin then.
I think the only thing I have to report is that I managed to show up to like the last hour of the District of Sechelt Christmas staff party. It's good to see our staff having an opportunity to sort of unwind and have some fun. There was a DJ there that was nice. I've been busy, but not with District of Sechelt business. And so with that, I just wanted to go first to wish everybody a happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all in January.
shop local. Councillor McLaughlin?
Not much happening, just really excited about the budget meetings we're having and the detail and the bubble diagrams and getting into that. So that's been really my focus here. Just community-wise, if you want to see a lot of lights and a big structure going up, come see Green Court. It's lit up at night and it's going to be visible from my bedroom, but I'm happy that that building is going up and it's coming up quickly. I don't know if they went with a modular system, doesn't look like it. It looks like standard construction. So it's a bit of hammer banging and stuff going on, but it seems to be going on at a pretty good pace. So that's really my report for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Inkster?
It was, I didn't find out till last minute that I had to be with one of my kids in Vancouver for sports. But as parents know, when your kid asks you to be, that it's important that you be at their games, you make that your first priority. So I missed what was probably a fun staff get together with council and others. Hopefully it works better next year. I also wanted to mention the Parade of Lights. Great turnout this year. I've never seen that many people. It's good to see them out on a Saturday night in downtown Sechelt. And the Rockwood light, the lights was also good. I think the weather helped. Warmer, not wet night, but let's hope for those in the future. And so that was a really good event, and the council took part in that. I think we were all there. Got to hand out candy, and I ran out of candy, and I had a lot. So I had a little bit left. I ate those. But anyway, I think I make sure that every kid that wants one, and even adults that want one, get one. I mean, in the end, they pay for it. So I make sure they get the candy. But they certainly appreciate it. And because of the way I do it, they don't have to come out into the roadway, that night being a little more challenging because of the darkness. And so I'll move on from that. But I also wanted to mention a couple of emails that council received later on today about a traffic issue. And I know that it's the issue is a little bit frustrating to the mayor, but maybe he can send out a letter to those residents to explain what steps could be taken, if any. Thanks. And it's in our emails.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll follow up afterwards. Councillor Rowe?
I don't know if Councillor Inkster knows that he missed his door prize at the staff party, so you can tell your kid. That's what it cost. You got, I didn't get it. No, like we gave it to someone else because you weren't there.
You won enough this year, Councillor Inkster.
I think there were Canucks tickets front row. Anyways, yes, a lot of Christmas holiday festivities were had, the number one being the staff party, which was great. We also had our ladies elected dinner with the district of Sechelt and the SRD. Gibson's was unable to make it, and the ladies from the First Nation came. And our MLA, who we had met with as a council earlier that day, stopped in and joined us. So that was really great. You gentlemen can organize your own gentlemen's evening. You don't need me to do it. I was also asked to sit on a new group that's the Sunshine Coast Health Advisory Table. And this is all about, it's being started by the Division of Family Practice in the hopes that it's going to be an independent body of community members that work on projects to help attract and retain local physicians and healthcare staff. So that was the first meeting I missed. The second meeting was good. There was probably about 30 people online. And this is an initiative also supported by the rural folks for rural medicine. So we'll see how that goes. I also attended Sunshine Coast Homeless Advisory Committee, which happen every other month. And that committee actually has been successful in doing some advocacy work. And we've just received some subsidies from BC Housing that help people who are vulnerable in their housing. So they're smaller amounts of money that can be used to, you know, meet rent gaps and try to keep people housed. So, yeah, that was good news. And I think that's about it. I hope everyone has a great holiday.
Thank you. Counselor Shepherd.
No, I have nothing to report. Things are winding up, so thanks.
Yeah. Okay, well, since I wasn't here a couple of weeks ago, we'll just take a couple of minutes. Rumors that I was on holidays are exaggerated. I've been focusing on some business things and some other volunteer activities. We put out on the Global EV Alliance, a world survey that we completed. We had 23,000 responses from 18 countries. And pretty neat when we have our meetings there. The Zoom host happens to live in Sechelt. So want to thank both the paddling club and the owner's representative at Lighthouse, because they've been able to reach an agreement to continue to have their outriggers at the close to where they were, but in some ways even better. So that's a testament to, I want to give a shout out to Margaret McDonald and Natan August for making that come together. I spoke to Rotary last week, and I was reminded just how important volunteers are. You know, they were talking about what projects can they do for this coming year. And so we threw some ideas around, and I'm sure they'll be back to us with some of their requests to take on a particular project and get our support to do it. On a sad note, I did talk to Mayor Ken Berry of Lions Bay yesterday, and of course, Lions Bay is going through a challenging time, and it's a reminder to all of us, just keep an eye out for things that might be, you know, blocking ditches or just be prepared. And last but not least, I had about 40 friends surprise me at a social function about 10 days ago. So I'll leave it there, and with my best wishes to everybody, to staff and all of you for a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you back in 2025. Oh, that sort of sounds like the end of the meeting, but it isn't the end of the meeting, is it? Okay, so Council, we've got items 10.1, 2, and 3. 10.1 is a letter from the 2963rd Seaforth Highlanders, and a proposal, as you read, I'm sure, for crosswalks at the Cenotaph. Any suggestions, Councillor Inkster?
I think this is a good idea, much like our other crosswalks. We do have to refurbish our crosswalks often anyway. And in some cases, these would be good ideas, much like we did the middle crosswalk with the colors we put there that the community really liked. And some of the art crosswalks that were put in, some of them were refurbished. We could probably find one close to the Legion as an example, which would be maybe a good fitting suggestion for that one. I think it's a great idea, just to recognize and represent some of these groups and or veterans. I also would love us to get our heads around the odd veterans parking spot, much like we do handicapped, if we could figure out a way to do that for vets, to recognize vets with their parking spots. A lot of the vets are older, so they would probably check both boxes, but there's no reason why we can't once again recognize the vets with parking spots as well as considering the duration of a crosswalk.
Thank you.
Strong consideration. Yeah. Thanks.
So in terms of this before us for correspondence, I mean, certainly I'm intrigued by it. I know when we did many years ago, the sunburst at Inlet and Cowrie. That seems to have survived better than crosswalks on the highway. Dare I say, Councillor Toth?
Thank you. Yeah, they're specifically identifying around the cenotaph as ideal. Under the assumption that we wouldn't need approvals from MOTI, which I'm not sure that that is accurate, given how close those crosswalks are to the highway. So I'm supportive of this. I guess from a operations perspective, I'm happy to refer it to staff for consideration. I don't think this is something we're gonna drop everything and go paint tomorrow. But certainly, if there's an opportunity as part of our markings renewal around the cenotaph, I'm supportive of referring this to staff.
So refer it to staff for costs?
I
Yes.
guess so.
Yeah.
Consideration of costs.
Okay, because I'd like to think there'd be funding for something like this from one or more agencies, not from our taxpayers directly. Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, I'm seconding it.
Okay, oh, I see. Thank you. Right. Okay, so for tonight, the motion to refer it to staff for a bit of assessment finger or? So, is that clear? All in favor? Carried. Then the dark sky registration from Charles. Must confess, I didn't look. Is there any cost? I don't think there's any cost involved. Save me.
I think they're saying that the principles are already being adopted by the district, but they're looking for enforcement. And I really, it's
Registration.
not something I want to pursue. I'm just, I don't know what that would involve, and I'm reluctant to move, to that part of it. Thanks.
I see, right. Okay, thank you, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hesitant too. You know, it's one thing for us to encourage our local businesses to only carry fixtures that are dark sky compliant and what have you, but I can go on Amazon with my phone and order up a fixture that shines 10,000 lumens into the sky during this meeting. Like it's really hard to restrict, and I don't know that enforcement is as effective as education and trying to just sort of get community buy-in. Over the last term and a half, we do get the occasional bit of correspondence from the dark sky folks. I'd actually like us to invite them to a committee of the whole to talk about what other communities might be doing better, or, things that we could maybe look at improving.
That's probably a good way to handle this correspondence. Yeah. Invite them to come, they can explain why enforcement is, in their view, a good idea and talk about it.
Happy to make that a motion to invite them
Invite
to a
them to
future
come
committee
to
of the
a
whole.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, then 10.3 is the Legion. Everybody's had a chance to read this? Please.
I'm not surprised at it, but again, reluctant. I mean, I think the district's done quite a bit for the Legion in terms of loan forgiveness, delaying repayment of part of what's owed. So to go this step further, I think the district's done its bit. And I'm not sure if they have recourse to, I mean, they have an active business. Can they go to a bank for loans? Or there are other additional sources, but just my initial reaction was that Seychelles done a lot already.
And they did acknowledge that. I'm agreeing with you, message, but at the annual meeting on the weekend, they were very complimentary of everything that we have done, but I agree. I think. Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, thanks. They did this list quite clearly, all the things they do in our community, and I think a number of us here have been in the new Legion. It's good to see a continuation of that service in Sechelt, because we never know where they'd end up. We've seen a number of Legions leave other towns due to the costs of providing the service that they do, other than the donations. I am wondering, I know we did do a lot. I actually thought that and I'm sure they were thankful, and they, as they explained to you, I actually thought they'd be so happy with that, and I guess they are. It is a lot of extra, because we have to, I'm not sure how the costs that we have were reached and how we fund that, those particular costs that we didn't forgive. And it would be interesting to get more of my head around that as a council member. That the cost, but also going forward, what we could do, if there's anything else we can do, if we can, I mean, they do a lot of donations. Could we look at how they, a different way of giving us the money? Obviously, I think it's interest-free, but it would be good to ask our staff if they could have a further discussion with these groups. My concern when they reach out to us like this is it's a white flag that it's halfway up their mast, and that's why they're reaching out again. And I think that we value their presence more than much more. We would be much more sad at their presence. We value their presence more than it would be very sad if they left. It's a difficult way to explain, but we would regret not asking staff to work with them to find solutions if in fact they couldn't continue operation. So I think we should try, even though we've done the previous work, and see what staff can work out. I think we have some very good finance staff, and maybe they can find a solution. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else? I'm gonna just suggest we receive the letter for now, and I will communicate what you've said to the new president, who did not write this letter, obviously. There's no urgency to this, is my reaction at this point. So that suits your motion, receive it? Yeah, all in favor of receipt? Good. Okay, item 11.1 is release the CIP grant committee appointments. Thank the two successful people, Karine McGoggin and Madeline Perrin, and also recognize and appreciate the others that applied. It's never easy to have to make a choice among several good applicants, so thank you to all of them. Council, a motion to release. All in favor? Released. Okay. So anything else to come to us? Right. Motion to adjourn. Carried. Oh, sorry, all in favor? Carried. Oh, thanks for